Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly episode. I don't even want to know what you're laughing at already, Shelley. Of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. My name is Blake Smith, and as always, with me are my partners in the paranormal, Miss Shelley Pruitt and Mr. Ryan Roberts. How are y'all doing tonight?
You know, I'm interested in this topic tonight. I got to tell you, because not only has my doppelganger been seen, my voice has also been heard at different locations. So when I was not even in the building. So I am very interested to hear what you dug up on this topic tonight. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I am very interested to get into this whole situation and talk about all this because I think all of us have experienced some sort of doppelganger activity, and we have all been trying to figure out what the hell it was. So
yeah, well,
I think we were all high. No, we weren't.
Drunk on Fireball.
That's after. That's
or
after.
power.
If you see me in the hallway of the hotel after an investigation, yeah, that might be Fireball. But other than no.
I did, but you were stumbling and swaying from side to side. But yeah.
I was walking straight. You were the one that was swaying. That's why
I totally was. I totally was. I'll own up to that. No, but it's funny you say, because like this episode is going to be a little bit different because the past ones that we have brought before, you know, usually there is this narrative, there's this story, there's this whole thing that we go through, and then we have a discussion at the end. Well, that doesn't happen with this phenomena because there's not a whole lot of really documentation surrounding it, nor is there really any scientific experiments that have been done surrounding doppelgangers. So more or less it's just a shit ton of theories, which everybody has their theory on it. There's no right or wrong in it.
So for those of you who like to hear us argue, get ready.
Oh God,
what's happening?
Yeah. Because I know you bitches are going to jump in with some shit tonight.
You know me so well.
Yeah. Well, tonight we are talking about, as Shelley's already said, we're talking about doppelgangers. So I've got to preface this at how we come to this topic for this week, because I very recently, and I remember I told y'all, and I was freaked out. I very recently had my own experience of what I would classify by definition as a doppelganger in my own house. But mine was a little bit different than what a lot of people have experienced out in the field or in their home or whatever. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna throw a couple of like a layout picture for you when I tell this story, so you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about, and I'll try and explain it so the audio listeners can also get an idea of what I'm saying. So basically, this takes place in my home. This is how we get to this topic. This takes place in my home. I live in a one-story ranch-style home. Essentially, we got a living room, a sitting room, a kitchen, a dining room. Think of 4 quadrants. The top left quadrant's the dining room, top right living room, bottom right sitting room, bottom left kitchen. Okay, you kind of got your setup there. You've got a cross that intersects all 4 rooms with open doorways. There's no doors into all these rooms. You can basically run circles all the way around in all these rooms. Secondly, super important, we also have a dog, Gabby. She is a 5.5-pound miniature Pomeranian. She's party mix. She's so tan with black and white tufts of hair mixed in. And so as you can kind of see that's on the screen, I had taken Gabby out for her last night, I guess, potty, whatever. Gave her little spoiled ass, her little special nighttime treat right before we go to bed. And she lays down and she starts eating it in the middle of the rug. Well, I proceed to go into the kitchen and start making the coffee and set the coffee pot for the next morning to go off. And I am now standing in the kitchen. I am the blue circle in the kitchen, if you're seeing it on the screen. So essentially in my kitchen, it's a 15 by 15 room, if you think about it. You got a doorway on the east side of the room, a doorway on the south side of the room. I am facing the east doorway, and out of the corner of my eye into the south doorway of the kitchen, I didn't look at her, but I see out of the corner of my eye, Gabby. I see a brown something or another. She's the red circle on the screen from the sitting room if you're looking at the screen. Walk into the kitchen. I see movement. I see the color. I see her face out of the corner. I see all of it. And so her and I have this little thing represented by the 2 blue arrows where I will step through the dining room doorway. She'll go back around the living room doorway, and I'll poke my head around and be like, what are you doing? You know, just to play with her. I take 2 steps out of the kitchen and into the dining room and throw my head to the side, and like I'm expecting to see her there. And she is not there. Instead, she is still laying in the middle of the living room floor, just finished eating her treat.
What the hell?
So now that I've told you that, we'll go ahead and drop this photo. There would have been absolutely no way that she would have been able to make it out of the kitchen in 2 steps. Literally, guys, 2 steps. I made it through a doorway. Out of the kitchen, around a little bit of a wall, around a couch, lay down in the middle of the rug, and be right there whenever my eyes make contact with her. Absolutely no way.
And now, if I'm not mistaken, someone else had eyes on her too, as well, right?
No, the other person that was Kev was outside.
Okay.
So he was outside. I was the only one that was in the house at this point. But it boggled my mind, and I started flipping shit. I'm like, what the hell did I just see? What the hell was it? So I immediately was like, I think I just had an experience with what I would classify as a doppelganger.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Wait, you had a doggy doppelganger in your
Yes,
house?
that was the whole thing about it, though. That was the difference, is that it was a dog. And so, of course, my ass is on Google, like, has anybody seen a doggy doppelganger? Stupid bullshit like that. And then that just led me to be like, dude, I got to talk about this. I got to tell this experience. I got to get people to understand, like, this is what I saw at the corner of my eyes. It was not her. Could have been no way it was her. And I was just flabbergasted. So I started looking into it. And this is really kind of the things that I was able to find out. So that's how we get to this topic. Now, let me explain a little bit of what I learned about this topic. By simple definition, doppelganger is a German word, and it means double goer. And we English speakers kind of stole the word. You know, it's a loan word, if you will. What were you going to say, Ryan?
I say we kind of steal a lot of words from a lot of cultures and fold it into English. So
we
poltergeist.
Do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zeitgeist, poltergeist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they just have the perfect, name for it.
And it sounds scary. That's even better.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously there's doppelganger. Now we Americanized it. We add an S onto it, which is doppelgangers, which there's only one singular plural. That's oxymoronic. There's only one singular form in the German language, and that is just doppelganger. But I found out there's also a female version of it. I'm going to butcher the shit out of it. Doppelgängerin, I believe is how it's pronounced. Has an N or some kind of crazy shit on the end of it. I have no idea. So, and this word actually dates back from what I was able to find. I think the earliest mention of a doppelganger was in 1796, but it was spelled Doppelganger, had a T in there after the L. So I found that very interesting. I was like, well, shit, this damn thing's been around for a fucking long while.
Was it in a literary work, do you know, or was it in like a
document? It was in a don't even ask me to pronounce it. Sibinkus or something like that by Jean Paul in 1796 is what I was able to find out. What the belief in the German folklore is, from my understanding, is that it's a wraith, apparition, or biologically unrelated lookalike or double that casts no shadow of a living person as distinguished from a ghost. So in other words, it appears to you as we three are sitting on the damn screen.
It's a carbon copy.
Yeah.
Yes. Say certain minor different details, though, sometimes.
I'd never heard the no shadow thing before. I
hadn't either.
Yeah.
But I did I did some digging into some German folklore and found that there was cases involving like no shadows and stuff like that. So that has kind of now made it into the folklore of the doppelganger. And this concept is actually, what I found out, not new. It's an ancient kind of widespread belief. It's not uncommon as you think. You have a lot of folklore, myths, religious concepts, cultures, traditions. You find this spirit double, which is, as I just previously said, an exact but usually invisible replica of every man, bird, or beast. That's a good way to sum it up. Most of the time, they're an invisible entity, whereas the doppelganger is more often or not seen as a solid form. So now in German folklore, this spiritual double, this doppelganger, is often referred to as the opposite of the living counterpart. In other words, if you're good, it's negative. If you're negative, it's good. Opposites. I guess opposites.
If you're crazy, it's sane.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about all that, but anyways, if you try and research stuff now, you're going to run into things that are like twin stranger. We've taken this term doppelganger and we use it so informally now, because I don't know if you've ever heard the concept of twin stranger. Have y'all ever heard that?
No, what is that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a fascinating photographer out there who has spent years tracking down people who are almost identical, but they aren't related. It's a fascinating subject. Y'all should go look it up.
I actually have a story about that because one day I got a phone call and I was in college and I got a phone call going, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." She goes, "I saw your picture in the paper that you had been in a terrible car wreck." And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Yes. Yes." She said, "You were in a terrible car wreck." So I was calling. She goes, "It's in," at that point, it was the Fort Worth Star Telegram. She goes, "It's on the front page of the Fort Worth Star Telegram." She goes, "This wreck is terrible." So what do? I go to find the Fort Worth Star Telegram. I said, "It was not me, but now I have to go see it." I am not kidding you. I have that picture somewhere. I actually cut that out of the photo. This girl looks just like me. I can see how and her name was Shelly.
Oh,
the last name started with the letter P.
No shit.
What?
And the girl is standing there and she's doing this. And y'all, if I wouldn't have known that I was not in that car wreck, I would have believed that that was me. And I'm going, and I stood there and I looked at it and I looked at it and I looked at it and I thought, there is no way. But her name was Shelly. Her last name started with a P. And they identified her as Shelly, and someone saw it and thought it was me and was calling to see if I was okay because they saw my picture.
So it was a complete dead ringer for you?
Dead ringer.
Period.
I'm telling you, I have got that picture somewhere because I could.
I'm gonna
not
need to
believe how
see
much
that.
I will find it.
I'm gonna need to see that. That's fucking interesting.
It is nuts. It is nuts how much it looks like me. So yes, that's what that twin stranger thing is, because they say everybody on this earth has got a twin somewhere. And I just could not believe. And that was actually kind of one of the first times I'd ever heard that twin stranger theory. I was in college, and I truly could not believe that this girl looked so much like me and had the same name as me.
Yeah. Now that's a little weird. See, I want to know if my twin stranger is out there, appearance wise. I know they're going to look identical to me, but is it psychological as well? Because God help the world if there's a second. I'm just kidding. So, but anyways, so it's not really until like the late 1800s that this term doppelganger takes on a negative connotation. It becomes a symbol of horror because there is a almost kind of rapid fire, if you will. I guess maybe not rapid fire. It's like 50 years. There's a few pieces of literature that come out that cast these doppelgangers in negative light, where they drive the main character mad, end up killing them or replacing them, end up killing others. So they start to take on this very negative connotation of sinister, like, oh, yes, they're the evil twin.
Yeah.
That's where this kind of whole evil twin aspect comes from.
I think I'm the evil twin. I think whoever the other one is probably.
I think you are too.
I think you are. I second that motion.
You guys are kind of supposed to argue with me just a little on that.
So is this where you start to get the? Because I know, like, it's supposed to be if you see your doppelganger, you're supposed to die. Like, is this where this comes from, or is this carrying over from like folklore?
I'm gonna get to some of that here in just a second on that part of it. But yeah, this is where that starts. That ideology starts to develop at this point with this negative connotation that's being brought along in the 1800s with this theory of a doppelganger. But it's not until The Night Side of Nature by Catherine Crowe in 1848 that this term really becomes well known. And I'm going to rave about this book for just a second because I picked it up. I was like, well, I want to see what this is about. It's not very long. It's an easy read. It's very quick. If you are a paranormal investigator, I implore you to read this book. It is as relevant today as it was back in 1848. And it gives this in-depth look at what it means to truly investigate the paranormal. It's fascinating.
And what was it called?
It's called The Night Side of Nature by Catherine Crowe.
Okay.
And it was published in 1848. Her ideas on the paranormal and how she approaches the paranormal is astounding. My jaw was dry. I was like, holy shit. Oh, okay. It's really good. Now, I mean, if you're into slow reads, don't think it's going to be like some thriller and you're going to be,
it's more of an informational reading, right?
Yes, absolutely. So with all of that, this folklore begins to grow. And that's where it starts to become to belief, Ryan, as you had said, that seeing your doppelganger is a bad omen. They become this harbinger of bad news. It's a belief that your death is imminent if you're to see your own. If your family members or your friends are to see your doppelganger, it means that sickness is imminent for you. We see them start to take on powers, abilities, weaknesses. That's where the no shadows comes in. Very much kind of like vampires. It's kind of coming around during that time. They're also, I read, they're susceptible to powers of magic, meaning given the right spells, you can affect them. And the last one that I found of a weakness was very freaking interesting. There's a belief that they're actually afraid of piano music, and playing piano music will actually freeze one on the spot when it's heard.
So Elton John's good.
Elton John is great.
it.
He's never going to see his doppelganger. He is never going to worry about it.
He and Harry Connick Jr. are going to live forever, right?
Billy Joel's fine.
Billy Joel's fine.
Yeah. And that's where, like I said earlier, that's where they get the idea that they start to become known as the evil twin.
Okay.
So that's where all of that starts to come about. So with that, though, they start to grow even further in different areas of the country, being that they can take on the ability to be able to like give you advice as well. But you don't listen to the advice, because the advice is always bad. It's misleading. It's going to make your life miserable. It's going to bring misfortune. That's why they advise don't speak to your doppelganger if you see them. However, I'm telling you right now, if I see myself, I ain't speaking to my damn self. I'm sorry.
No, I'm too good for me.
It's like, come here, quick tip. Put it all on Enron. Enron is what you want to buy.
But what's interesting to me is it's not really until we get to the English speakers that this term tends to be connected with a paranormal concept even. Like even up until that point, like during all of this growing folklore and whatnot, it wasn't connected into the paranormal until essentially we got a hold of it. And we're like, slap that bitch with a paranormal label. And that's what it is. It's part of the paranormal world. Some of the examples like throughout the ancient world that were interesting that tie into this is like ancient Egypt, mythology. You have what's known as the Ka. Now the Ka is an untranslatable word. It refers to an aspect of man and gods that's connected with the creative life force. It's what differentiates a living person from the dead. It comes into the existence the moment of birth, and it's often depicted as a slightly smaller figure living alongside the living person. So you have that idea that has come from the ancient Egyptians. And the same token, you have what's known as a Ba in ancient Egypt, which is another spiritual entity that would leave the tomb during sunshine. Now, this is after the person has died, leave the tomb during sunshine while the Ka remained with the body. So you actually have these two different type of spiritual entities in ancient Egyptian times, or ancient Egyptian ideology, I guess you could say.
Are these like little minions that are like following you around? Or
you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like it's both parts of the spirit.
Yeah,
the
it
light
is.
And the dark.
Yeah.
Of
Yes.
The spirit.
Yes.
Okay.
Or the
That's
soul.
exactly what I was going to say. Yes. It's different portions of a person's soul, but that often live alongside the living person.
Gotcha.
Instead of being, I guess, within oneself, I guess you could say, so to speak. Now
I call those my personalities.
I mean,
Jesus Christ.
Ka, Ba, multiple personality disorder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing, I guess.
Because if I start walking around going, "Hey, knock that shit off," y'all go ahead and just check me in, okay?
This is why we say Shelley's the evil one.
Yes, I am the evil one.
So that's ancient Egyptian. Now, you've got another one in Norse mythology. I'm telling you, I tried to find as much documentation on this crap that I can. And what I ran into is a bunch of folklore. And you have Norse mythology. You have, I'm going to butcher the shit out of this, is a Vardoger. I believe it's how it's spelled. I mean, sound. It's said Vardoger. Vardoger. Now, in Finnish, I am not even going to try to pronounce it. It's a Itienen, I think. Close enough. That's a ghostly double. This one differs, though. It's a ghostly double who precedes their living counterpart and is seen performing a person's actions in advance. Go ahead, Ryan.
That is very interesting because I actually have a story about that. My grandfather he claimed that he saw me or something that looked like me before I was born. He was at a stoplight in a town, and he happened to look over. He says like 3:00 in the morning, and he saw this little boy come around the corner and get up. Remember those horses that were coin operated, that used to be in front of like the general store?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he said, his little blonde haired, blue eyed boy, he said 3:00 in the morning, and he's watching this kid comes out of the alley, no adults ever, gets on the horse and like rides the horse and acts, is having a good time. And then just like it either disappeared or he got off the horse and went back around the alley. When I was a little kid, he said, I looked just like that kid. And he had seen that maybe a year before I was born. So
now that's interesting.
Yeah.
In this case, the example that I was able to kind of find and piece together is, here's your example. Family members waiting for a person to arrive home. Okay. 15 to 30 minutes before this person arrives home, the family members hear the garage door open, the car pull into the garage, car door shut, key turn in the knob, door open and close. Animals can respond to this. Humans respond to this. When they go towards the sound, there's nobody there. The family member hasn't gotten home. Precisely a few minutes later, it all happens again the exact same way, except this time the person has in fact arrived home.
And whenever you were telling me about that, I told you that has actually happened to me more than once. That I had come home from work. I usually got home at the same time every day or close to it. And I've literally had members of my family say, we thought you just came in and went back to your room.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, I just got here.
Mm-hmm.
And not one of them, several of them. Even my son thought that I was already home one day because he thought he had seen me come in and go into my room to change clothes or do whatever it is, put my things down, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he had even thought that he had seen me, and only to have me come in like 10 minutes later. So there is some validity to that. I think, because these were 3 different people that were in my home that had said this at different times. So
yeah. Well, verdosiers are typically just auditory premonitions, if you will. Just to sum that up in ease, it's just auditory premonitions.
They're strictly auditory.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
that's all I was saying. It's just strictly kind of auditory stimuli that you are responding to because you think. In other words, it's like a person's spirit's so eager to get home, the spirit goes beforehand and does the exact same thing that what the person's going to do whenever they get home.
Okay.
That's a kind of good, quick way of putting it. They're not considered unlucky or bad omens, though, unlike doppelgangers are.
I wonder how much of that, though, is residual. Like if you repeat a same routine every day, and if that's the imprint on the environment versus something that's actually physically doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Or could it be the fact, have you ever done your daily drive, your daily routine, whatever it is you're doing, and say you have a commute that's 30 minutes or longer, and suddenly you look up and you go, how did I get here?
Oh my
and you've
God,
been driving
all
for
the
like
time.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
All the time.
I used to always say that my car knew how to get home. I didn't even have to pay attention. I did that so often that I wonder if that's the moment when something kind of leaves and goes, I'm going to go ahead and go. You continue, maneuvering the vehicle. I'll wait there for you.
Yeah.
And there have been times that I've literally driven up to my house and go, how the hell did I get here? Now, some people call it dementia or early onset Alzheimer's, but I call it just I was distracted. So.
Well, now you can call it your verdosier. That's what you can call it now. That goes along with your multiple personality disorder. Exactly. So lovingly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have no shame. I ain't ashamed of it. I embrace my crazy.
Well, there's another one in Norse mythology. That's what I loved about it is I found out that there were multiple ones in a lot of these ideologies of back then. So in Norse mythology, there was another one called a Fylgja.
Okay.
Fylgja. Okay, Fylgja. Just go with me. Now, if I had to put a definition in reading into what a Fylgja was, I would almost label what I experienced as this one.
Okay.
Because it was probably the most closely related. These are generally perceived in animal form and would be closely related to what we know as like familiars of witches in European folklore. They are extremely very closely related to the person. When the person dies, so does the Fylgja.
Okay.
So, and the word literally translates to follower and is kind of depicted as traveling ahead of its owner as the same way as a Vardozier does, but typically is in animal form. Now, that's not to say that you cannot have a human Filgia, but more often than not, they are in animal form instead of human form. So if I had to put a definition or a label on whatever it was that I had experienced, that's the one that I kind of would go with.
And I'm guessing because your bond is so close with Gabby, maybe it has created a Filgia somehow.
I don't know. When I found that word, I was like, number one, I was like, how the hell do I pronounce this? Because I am Texan, and that is a lot of consonants that I have never seen together.
Well, that's Norse for you.
yeah, exactly. And then I found out it was Norse mythology, and I was like, well, hell, these are my people. But it's so far way back on the line, I don't even know how to I don't know how to pronounce it. But when I actually read into it, what it was, I was like, holy shit! I was like, this might actually be the definition of what I experienced. So I would say all of those that we just kind of previously talked about are what is closest related to what an actual doppelganger is. You know, it's a portion of the person and or animal, follower, you know, whatever, resembling this person that exists outside of the body, either while living or once the person dies, and can be a catalyst for the belief, especially in nowadays, I guess you say, of being a harbinger of death. All of those would fall kind of under that umbrella. Now, there are a couple of other customs and traditions that I ran down with some rabbit holes. I got lost, y'all. I ain't gonna lie, and I ain't gonna spend much time on these, but I think that they need to be touched on because they do fall under the umbrella of something that could be, I guess, classified as doppelganger. First one, and y'all are gonna be like, "Oh hell!" As soon as I say it, a changeling.
Yes.
I know y'all know what a changeling is.
Yeah.
You know, it's European folklore. These are deformed or imbecilic offspring of fairies, elves, and in some reports, demons. And then in Scandinavia, trolls, which are then substituted for offspring of humans.
They for human child.
For very reasons. Yes, for very reasons. Now, it's said that the human children, they're given to the devil as to, you know, or used to strengthen fairy stock. Because it's much more respectable to be raised by humans than it is any of these. That was the whole theory behind it, of why the switching out was. Now this changeling grows up the exact form of the infant, the toddler, the child, the teenager, the adult. There's no difference between them. The only thing that I hate about it is that this was human response to not understanding deformities, birth deformities. In children. And so unfortunately this did lead to a lot of child abuse cases back way back in the day. You know, I'm talking about things like having it could be so little as having a voracious appetite, having extra toes, extra fingers, things like that. They'd be like, oh, it's a changeling. And so people would abandon the child.
It could
typically
be something as simple as hyperactivity, a child that could not sit still or would not sleep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they chunked my ass out in the woods real fast.
They'd be like, no, we didn't sign up for this. Send her back, hurry, send her back.
Yeah, they're like, I'm in no sleep. She must be a demon.
Yeah, right. Well, and then the other one that kind of falls along the lines of that is Skinwalker, which I think we all know pretty kind of what is a Skinwalker. You know, it's a Navajo legend. We'll delve further into that on another time because that could be a whole
man that's gone bad that can change shape. And
that's
form.
exactly what I was just about to say. We'll go further into that on another topic because that could be its whole own separate topic. Then of course you have things like the Hellhound, which is a demon dog. Essentially, it's a harbinger of death. You see it, you're supposed to die. And then you also have what's known as the Mimic, which I find this one kind of interesting. You know, it's by definition, mimicking is imitating or copying an action, speech, or behavior. It's exactly as it sounds. But the other definition of that is to become something that one is certainly not. And that's where it gets me on that. I think the mission of a mimic is most often to mislead and deceive, consequently making whatever, you know, whoever it's afflicting, the victim, succumb to the likeness of what appears to be real and not the true nature of what it really is. So I think this can fall under your extremely negative entities. I think mimicry or mimicking is something that can be done by multiple entities. I think there is a separate entity known as a mimic. But I think that it's kind of across the board. We see this a lot in negative, aggressive, even demonic cases. And I think that lends credibility back into these doppelgangers being harbingers of bad news and bad omens and things like that. Go ahead, Ryan. I know you got something on the tip of your tongue.
I was going to say, we all three have experienced something like this in a couple of different locations.
Yeah. And those experiences typically have not ended well for us. It's gotten really aggressive and kind of, yeah. So, and that's my thing with that mimicry is that most of the places that we've been to that, we'll hear each other's voices.
Yeah, we tend to experience that. It has been related to something that is negative that is going on. We have never had something mimic and then, oh, happy, joyous day. No, it doesn't seem to work like that for us. Not for us. Maybe it does for you, not for us. Usually once we begin to start hearing things that are being mimicked or voices being mimicked, usually that's when shit goes sideways, for lack of a better term.
Like, we've all been in locations and heard our name being called by each other when none of us have been calling each other. And it usually tries to get you off in a really dark place by yourself, so.
Well, because the last entity that we're actually going to touch on with doppelgangers, that falls under that umbrella is demonic entities, and that is, oh, sorry. I was reading one of the comments. Anyways, my bad. But is the demonic entities, and one of those locations, will not say when, where, how, or why, that we have had mimicry, and even Shelley's doppelganger has been seen at, is one place that we do believe that there is a demonic entity that resides inside of it. Because Shelley, what is that story? There's an investigator.
So what had happened was, we were there early and we were kind of walking around. We were setting up equipment, doing things like that. And I had stepped into this little room off to the right-hand side of the hallway. Now, this other investigator who had picked up some equipment did not see me step in. She sees me at the end of the hall turn and go down towards a certain room, but she sees me at the far end of the hall. And she's like, hey, wait, where are you going? And I stick my head out. I said, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm right here. And she drops the things and she goes, no. I just saw you go down that hall. I'm like, no, you didn't. I'm right here. And she's like, no, I just saw you at the end of that hall and go that way. I said, let's go see. So we go turn around. Nobody down there. And she's like, I swear I just saw you. She goes, I didn't make a mistake. There's 3 of us in the building. 2 are females, 1's a male. That was not the male that was going down there. She goes, your hair was in a ponytail. I saw the blonde ponytail go down the hall. So yeah. That's the same one where, and Ryan, I guess it was you that heard my voice calling you to come down to the basement when in fact I was outside the building.
And I knew you were outside the building. I was like, that is not Shelley. I'm not going down there.
Good for you, Ryan. See, Shelley, that's how it's done.
Not no, been like, who the hell just kidding. Acting like they me. I'm not good. But at that particular location, there have been 2 other people that reported hearing me say, hey, I need you to come down here, or hey, I need you to come help me. Yeah. And they've taken off and found themselves at the end of a hallway or in an area completely by themselves with me not there. And in those cases, the truth is that I would have been a good one to mimic, because at those times I was kind of leading what was going on. I was kind of the one who had been left in charge. So if I call and I'm the one left in charge and say, hey, I need you to come down here right now, the investigators that are there to help, they're going to come because they think I need something.
Yeah.
What a wonderful way to divide and conquer is the person who is at the moment leading the group or in charge of the location at the moment. Yeah, you're going to go.
Yeah. And that place is known to divide and conquer.
Yes.
So
110%.
Now, what I found interesting, I don't know how much credibility I'm going to put into this source, but I found one source, and I'm going to list off what that they had labeled in this, that in true form, if there is such a thing, again, lots of theories out there, doppelgangers are said to appear as tall, elven, gray-skinned humanoids. whose thin, hairless bodies make them appear to human eyes sexless. Again, this is one source. Do not quote. Don't go around going, Blake from EVP said that. No.
That sounds an awful lot
Like an
like a gray.
alien.
Yes, I know.
Uh-huh.
And listen, I mean, this is all under the true form, quote unquote, true form of what a doppelganger is, and according to this one source. Their heads are said to be bulbous with formless faces and bulging eyes. They're a pale yellow hue and lack visible pupils. A deception of a physically weak form. They rarely stay in this form, and apart from appearance, they acquire physical features like voice, skills, mindset, characteristics, behaviors. They can do so without any previous insightful observation. It is just instinctive. They can also change fragments of their bodies to resemble clothes or even equipment. According to the source, that's true form of doppelganger. Now, my idea is I don't think there is a true form of a doppelganger.
I haven't
in my
caught
opinion.
one, so I can't tell
Exactly.
you what the true form is.
And that does sound very much like a gray alien. I'm sorry.
It does.
Whatever the hell the true definition of a doppelganger, what many people perceived to be a trick of the eye or a mistaken identity, I think is actually something that's extremely much more complex. And I think we've just begun to scratch the surface on it. I don't think we have anywhere close to the answers for it yet. Now we'll reach out to some of you skeptical people real quick and tell you that if you want to go more towards a medical standpoint, yes, there is a medical reasonable explanation for what a doppelganger is. You will find a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists that will tell you that seeing these spirit doubles is a sign of schizophrenia. I'm not going to lend that far, but this is some of the medical explanations that I have found. This is one of the instances that I hate that people take from time to time. Like, we can't explain it. There's no, so it's got to be blah. You got to have a mental condition. I hate that stance from time to time because, you know, I mean, sometimes it can be true, but most we deal in the unknown, y'all. I mean, how can we just label everything a mental health issue? There's a hole in this schizophrenia claim, and I'll tell you why. Because number one, it's highly unlikely that the majority of individuals experiencing this phenomenon are all suffering mental health issues. I think we can all pretty much agree on that. While there are some that I do believe are suffering from mental health issues, that can't always be the explanation, especially when you get to my number 2 point. It's even more highly unlikely that symptoms of schizophrenia are the explanation when it's a large group or multiple people experiencing the exact same thing.
Now, I can attest to that because there was a time where me and Shelly were in a place investigating, and I was with another investigator in the basement, and I couldn't find him. And I said, "Hey, where is this person?" And I had 4 or 5 people to my left say, "Well, we just saw him go up this ramp." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then from behind me, he goes, "I didn't go up that ramp." Are those 4 or 5 people all schizophrenic? I know.
He was literally standing right behind Brian. He was one of those people that's really, really quiet. He makes a point not to be noticed, but he's where he says he's going to be. You know, he's not really a wanderer. He'll tell you if he's going to go over here or something. And yeah, he had been, and this was early, so he was sticking right with you, Ryan, initially. And this was early, and he had not left your side.
No.
And he definitely didn't walk upstairs, but 4 ladies thought he did. And he was dressed very distinctly, too.
Yes.
It was a night where everybody could, you know, kind of dress in a costume. And he had chosen a Jason mask and a pair of brown coveralls and brown boots. He wasn't going to walk quietly.
No.
And he was the only one in brown coveralls and brown boots.
I didn't see his doppelganger walk up the ramp, but 4 or 5 people to my left saw it. So
they said he just
saying,
went up there.
I can't explain that, and I don't think that schizophrenia, or there is a medical explanation for that.
Well, let me tell you a story, because I did find a story. Probably one of the most well-known, and actually probably one of the most well-documented cases of a doppelganger occurs in 1845 in Europe. This case involved a teacher named Emily Chazet, and it takes place in Latvia, obviously, which is, if you don't know, is situated between Lithuania to the south and Estonia to the north. And Emily is a teacher at an exclusive girls' school. And that is where this whole thing is kind of documented at. This is actually first told by Robert Dale Owen in 1860 in his book called The Footfalls on the Boundary of Another World. And this is how he says the story goes. This is what is documented. Emily is a 32-year-old at this point, attractive, smart, generally well liked by the students and staff of the school. Even still, Emily was a bit of an enigma, even though her teachings were reported to be excellent. In the previous 16 years, she had already been employed in 18 different schools, with her current school being the 19th. This was overlooked because her demeanor with the students proved to be exceptional. It slowly started to become clear why Emily moved around from job to job so much, and the students and staff began to realize there was something peculiar about their teacher and their coworker. One day, when the teacher was teaching a class of 17 girls, her students began to notice something appearing next to her while she wrote on the chalkboard with her back to the students. What began to materialize beside Emily was a figure. The entity was identical to Miss Saget and even mimicked her movements as she taught the class. As she continued to teach, it became clear to the students that they weren't the only ones who could see this image. Words are hard tonight. Let me start
They all
over.
were seeing it. Yeah.
They all were seeing it,
Yeah.
but they were the only ones who could see this entity while Emily was oblivious. And this
Mhm.
wasn't the only occurrence. The second time it was spotted was when Emily was eating lunch as students watched the figure manifest behind her, and as before, it imitated every move. The most talked about sighting was by a class of 42 girls. These 42 students were learning to sew while a supervisor tended to the class, and their teacher was out in the garden just outside the window. When the supervisor left the class for a bit, Emily came back into the classroom, sat down, the children thinking nothing of it, until one student pointed out that their teacher was still in the gardening outside. And this was the farthest the figure had ever been from the real Emily Saget, and the students didn't know what to think. And it also seemed to have a mind of its own at this time, no longer mimicking its original. When the students told Emily what they had seen, she stated while she was outside of the garden, she was wishing to be inside with them. It was heard while Emily's doppelganger made itself visible. The actual Emily appeared very worn and lethargic, as if the duplicate was a part of her spirit that had broken free. In the coming weeks, students and staff said they had come in contact with Emily's doppelganger, some passing through it, saying it felt like a heavy fabric. As time went on, it was more and more frequent that Emily's phantom double was seen until eventually parents began to pull their children from the school. Even though her work as a teacher was impeccable, the headmistress ultimately had to fire her to relieve the school of their spiritual friend. That is probably the most well documented because they have the documentation from the students, from the staff members, and from the school itself on this whole phantom double that's taking place. And this is back in 1845.
That almost sounds to me like some sort of astral projection.
Astral projection.
That's
Yeah.
Exactly what I thought too.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I thought. But so does astral projection fall under the doppelganger umbrella?
It could, I suppose.
Well, you're talking about a twin.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost think it would have to, but
Mm-hmm.
I truly don't know enough about astral projection to speak knowledgeably on that, to be honest with you. That is kind of what it sounds like. I know it's a spirit leaving a body, being able to look down and see what's going on, or being able to put yourself in a location. But I have never heard of the spirit doing one thing while the body did the other.
No.
Not operating independently of each other.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. So
Let me give you
happen.
Either.
Let me give you 3 quick more cases that I was able to find. You have
Okay.
3 different instances of this doppelganger ideology involving popular figures throughout time. And the first one being Catherine the Great's doppelganger. Hers was once spotted sitting in her throne room while she, the original Catherine, was asleep in her bed. She was awoken, and then wanting to see for herself, she went to her throne room and saw an exact replica of herself sitting there. She ordered her guards to shoot the figure. It's not known if the figure stayed or vanished when it was shot at, but a few weeks later, Catherine the Great died of a stroke.
Huh.
The next one that you have is Queen Elizabeth I, also known as the Virgin Queen. She had come up on her doppelganger while it was laying in the Queen's bed. Her replica was described as motionless, pale, and ashen. The Queen was frightened of this apparition, taking it as a bad omen. Shortly thereafter, the Queen fell into a fit of illness and melancholy in March of 1603 and died on the 24th of that month. And then the last one that you have would be the 16th president himself, Abraham Lincoln, which is chronicled in Noah Brooks' book, Washington and Lincoln's Time. So it's soon after Lincoln's elected in 1860. He arrived home one day, looked into the bureau mirror, and saw himself reflected in double. And Lincoln said, quote, nearly at full length, but my face had two separate distinct images. He said one was paler, about 5 shades than the other. Now, his wife, who we have talked about in her spiritualism back in the White House hauntings, I think that's episode 16, his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, she believed that the paleness of the half-dual image was a bad omen. Her belief is that it meant that he would survive his first term, but not his second, which we obviously know to history. That's exactly what happened. Now, whether that is an actual, I sat down and interviewed Abraham Lincoln and Mary Todd Lincoln about something that happened right after he got elected in 1860, remains to be seen. But it is something that has survived, I guess you could say, the Lincoln administration.
It's a story that had enough credibility in the moment to survive.
Yeah.
And has continued to be retold.
Yeah. So my whole thing is like, this is where all of my questions start to come in with all of this kind of things that I was able to find out. It's like, what the hell is the, I guess, presence behind a doppelganger? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it negative? You know, I most say no. Some say yes. My belief, based on the stories above, may not be the best thing.
I think you got a mixed bag, really, on what a doppelganger could be and what it could mean. Like you said,
I think it's going to have to depend on the location that you're at.
Yeah.
Determining what it is that it means.
Do
you think it could be part of your own mindset, as in what you're projecting? Because what the girls saw, I was not unhappy. I was just going around the corner to go do whatever I had to do. And there was nothing unhappy or ill, you know. However, she was going to follow it. So was that something in that area that was negative? It was trying to lead her away by herself? Or is that something that I could have inadvertently projected because I was so excited to be there and couldn't get everywhere I wanted to be at once? I don't know. Somebody tell me. I'm just throwing out some theories here.
I think, in like reading a couple of things, I think this whole belief in duplication, I guess you could say, or fragmented identities. You have to look back again to the damn 1800s. I mean, they were there. We talk about the 60s all the time with the hippie age and all that kind of shit, but there was a lot of crap going on in the 1800s. Let me tell you what. But not only do you have the rise of spiritualism, but you also have the rise of photography. I mean, it's the first time that somebody actually gets to actually gaze up on themselves, to see themselves reflected. So I think that whole technological advance brought about this whole awareness of double selves. I think it brought it to the forefront, if you will. You couple that with all this literature that's going around about doppelgangers in the time and the rise of spiritualism and everywhere. I mean, you got the perfect freaking crock pot for all these things to come up. What are they exactly, in my opinion? I think that is a huge, complex answer, because I'm into the belief that I think it does depend on the location of where you're at. Can they be demonic? Yes. Can they be astral projection? Yes. Can it be a rip, somewhere? Yes. Can it be multidimensional, whatever? Yes. I think it's so complex. I don't think we're ever going to come down to one day of it's just, hey,
can
here
it be
is.
An alien? Yes.
Yeah.
Can it be an alien? Yeah.
Could be. And that's what I'm saying. I think you've got an entire mixed bag of what it means and what it could be. It's kind of like you spin the wheel. Which one's it going to land on?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, if you look at it more from, here we go, y'all. This is a discussion. This is going to be as close as you'll get to a phone call with us. If you look at it more on, let's say, a scientific term, if you want to, let's take it parallel universes, multidimensional, things of that nature. Parallel universes, hypothetical universe coexists with our own universe.
Yep.
According to, depending on who you ask, it just depends on how many universes there are, how many realms or dimensions that there can be. We have some that are very closely related to ours that reflect almost the same thing. You have ones that are complete opposite. And then you have ones, so like if you're good here, you're bad there. I think the most widely accepted one is the infinite universe theory, is that every possible outcome that can happen will happen, but on a different universe.
Yeah, it's being played out somewhere else. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like a ripple in a pond.
Yeah. It's where you get like the butterfly effect. Like how do the small changes in life that you make day to day affect the greatest outcome at the end of your life, you know?
Yep.
So if you have all these, how close are they related? Do they cross over from time to time? Is that what you're in fact seeing? Is that Shelley, your doppelganger, is seen? Is it two Shelleys being seen on the same dimension, same plane, same universe? Because there is this crossover at that point.
Well, I think in certain locations that we go to, we are dealing in areas where the veil is very, very thin. And if we are having a confluence of all these different universes somewhere stacked on top of each other, there could be a moment in time where those two universes kind of collide. And that could be why someone saw Shelley go down the hallway. And but in our universe, Shelley's right here to my right. But for some reason, I saw Shelley go down the hallway because maybe in that other universe, in that alternate reality, Shelley did go down the hallway. Yeah, I don't know. And then what if it's also a time slip? What if that's the case? Like it's something that is going to happen, but somehow.
And I did go down the hallway right after that very quickly. I went tearing ass around that corner to go see what it was. Was that a premonition of what was to come? I was just seeing myself. I didn't see it, but she saw me do it. But she saw me do it before I actually did it.
Yeah. Well, that's where you get into the whole multidimensional space-time continuum thing, you know, that I mean, it's all past, present, future is all happening together simultaneously. You know, and therefore a future action is being played out in that form. Shelley going down the hallway, and then therefore later on Shelley goes down the hallway because future did it, then present does it, you know, so to speak. That it's not. How do I put it? Time's not just linear at this point.
It's a flat circle.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if we're getting into what do we believe at this point, because I think we pretty much have tossed out almost every single theory that there possibly can be. My theory is just because from personal experience, anytime that I've ever come across anything that is a mimic, that I hear Ryan's voice or Shelley's voice, or have those experiences, you know, with Gabby's doppelganger in the kitchen that I explained at the very beginning. We know the shit that goes on in my house. You know, there has been some not very nice things that have happened in my house spiritually. Just going to put that out there spiritually, because I've brought things home with me.
Yeah.
Every instance that I've ever had where I've experienced something, I guess you could say would fall under the doppelganger umbrella has been on the negative side of the spectrum. So I'm lending credence more to them being of a mimic entity. That's where I would go with this. I think they're almost an entity of themselves in that mimic category. Like I said earlier, mimic can be done across the board with multiple entities and stuff like that. But every time that I've had those experiences, they've always been negative. And so therefore I associate anything that has to do with mimicry, whether that be the doppelganger, whether it be hearing Ryan's voice, Shelley's voice, Brittany's voice, or anybody's voice coming through the spirit box that I know is alive and in the building with me, it's been under negative circumstances. So in my own personal experiences, that's where I would place doppelgangers, is in a mimic entity category with a negative connotation. What say you, Ryan?
I think from personal experience, you kind of summed it up from personal. Any time that we've ever encountered anything like that. But I mean, what if there are times where you are dealing with someone or who has astrally projected, like you were talking about the teacher? That could also be a thing. I mean, I don't think I've ever experienced that, but yeah, I think that you pretty much summed it up, that not majority of the time it's going to be something that you don't necessarily want to come across or deal with. So that's what I think. What do you think, Shelley?
It's my opinion that anytime I've dealt with any kind of mimicry, any kind of doppelganger, anything, it has always been negative for me as well. So I am going to tend to lead on the side that if this is happening, that is some kind of trickster element, and the tricksters generally aren't good. They may not be demonic
No.
per se, but they're usually not nice, and things don't usually work out for the person that the trick is being played on. I do tend to think that that is more negative. And if you think about it, Ryan, whenever you kept getting my voice through the spirit box, that was like the very first thing it laughed at you. And you were like, "Holy crap, that is Shelly's voice." I was not even in that building.
No.
And my voice came through to you no less than 5 times, and I heard it, and I'm like, "Damn, that's me." But I know for a fact I wasn't in that building. I was upstairs. So, and that night went very wrong very quickly from a paranormal standpoint. So I think that anytime I've encountered with it, it has been negative, and it has been something that I have for the rest of the evening sought to avoid at all costs, because I think there is some truth that you can't meet your devil. I don't ever want to, but I think there's
Yeah.
some truth to
No.
that.
And any time that we've encountered that too, that always seems to kick off the evening whenever.
Oh God, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and it almost is like a harbinger, like this is the kind of night you're about to have. Buckle up, because this is going to get wild.
Almost every time a location has popped off,
Yeah.
we have had an experience like that. That there is some level of mimicry that is taking place. Hell, the one where Shelley's doppelganger gets that place pops off all the damn time.
It does, and I think that a lot of the times, its purpose is to get you to drop your guard, to get you to be comfortable, because you're like, oh, this is something comforting to me. I'm familiar with this. I know what this is. I know who this is, and then who knows what its ultimate goal is, but I think initially it's to get you to drop your guard so it can do something else possibly.
Well, and I think that that's something that people don't think of a lot with doppelgangers, is that when you say doppelganger, I don't think that they realize that there's a whole umbrella with that. It's not just seeing Shelley or seeing Ryan. It can be hearing Shelley or hearing Ryan. I think it's anything. That's why I put it in that mimic category, because I think it's anything that you are familiar with that brings you comfort in order to deceive you from what it truly is, so that it has, I think it always has
lulling you into a false sense of security, and anyone that tries to do that, or anything that tries to do that, that is not inherently good.
Right. It's like you don't get in the taco van because they have tacos, I mean, as
Ryan
much as
does.
I want to.
I mean,
Ryan does. I've had to drag him out of that taco van. We don't eat tacos from weird people in vans.
but they have al pastor.
But if you pass the tamale lady selling them out of the back of her trunk,
hey,
absolutely.
She's fine.
Absolutely. Because let me tell you something. When you leave the bar at 2 a.m., those are going to be some of the best tamales you have ever put in your freaking mouth.
Absolutely.
So I have to read one thing that was put into our comments.
Okay.
And this one comes from Melissa. She says, my son's girlfriend is a mobile eye tech. She went to a client's house to do her lashes. The girl was laying down, eyes closed, of course. The little boy walked in and was standing in the doorway. So she said hi and asked him his name. The girl says, who are you talking to? She said, I'm assuming your little brother, and described him. The girl said, that sounds like him, but he's at school. Hours later, the bus dropped him off and they met him at the stop. She said she nearly fainted because he was there or something. And I think she messed up on the last word, but that's okay.
We got the idea.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like that teacher wanting to be inside when she was actually outside. Maybe that little boy wanted to be at home.
He wanted to be home.
Maybe he was having a rough day at school.
So that brings a whole nother aspect to this. Now, what if, because like we were talking about what was the one where if you arrive home, the garage door opens and all that. What was that one called, Blake?
A Vardozier.
The Vardozier. Okay. We do know that people who have lived in the past, we know what a residual haunting is. If people don't know what a residual haunting is, it's like a recording that plays itself over and over again. Something is imprinted on the environment.
It's there all the time. It just does the same thing over and over and over.
And we know a lot of the times it's something from the past that people see, be it the 1800s, 1700s, whatever. Who's to say that if you repeat the same routine every day, or if you have something traumatic happen in your home or place of business now, that can also not be recorded into the environment and can replay itself. So maybe because that little boy lives in that home, maybe somehow the environment has recorded him walking through and she saw something residual if he was standing on the edge of the living room.
He had already imprinted himself in that
Yes,
environment.
it was imprinted. He was at school, but somehow the environment has received that imprint and is playing that little boy like walking through the house or standing on the edge of the living room. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I see what you're saying. That's
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard it applied to the living in that way. But
You know what, though? I would think, for me, for something like that to have happened, I would think that there would need to be a time element involved, and over and over and over for a certain amount of time. Now, what is that time limit? I don't know. I would think it would have to be years of doing the same thing, or something incredibly traumatic that immediately scars something.
Or it could. I mean, but think about it, kids have a lot of energy, and what if they're like releasing excess energy into the environment and imprinting on the environment?
That's one I don't have an answer to. Sorry, I'm not that smart.
I'm just. I mean, this is a theory. It's not.
I get where you're going with that. I don't know. I don't know. That's because I guess because our brains are so wired being paranormal investigators that we obviously go straight to like stone tape theory to energy being imprinted after a person has passed. That I don't know if we've ever given it enough thought to think that, hey, can it not imprint while a person is living and sharing that same environment?
Well, here's what I think. And whenever we were explaining, what I saw was a piece of carpet in your house. And if you walk over it the same day, you get that little wear pattern from where you walk every day.
Yeah.
Now, if that was a child and that carpet's new, it's going to be really hard to make those imprints unless it's freshly vacuumed carpet and you can walk through and you can see your own footy prints. So what I would think of it like it would have to be a time thing, like a constant, ingraining into the environment. Now, that's just my theory. I don't think that a child, I just don't think a child would have time. I think it's more like a split thing.
We don't necessarily know why the environment chooses to hold on to things it chooses to hold on
and
to.
Let go of those things. Yes.
True. Yeah. Hold on. I got a question for Shelly about that the little carpet and everything like that.
Okay.
It's 2023. Why do you have carpets in your house?
Mind your business.
By the way, carpeted bathroom, bad idea. Never do that.
Oh God, dude, no.
Don't have carpet in my bathroom.
I'm just messing. I had to give you shit. I mean, come on. We're getting too deep. Somebody had to pull it back into the comical world for just a second. That was literally my only question for that. Really have an actual
question. No, I was about going. Okay, so because I really thought you were going with the if you vacuum it and you put your footprints in it, well, you can re-vacuum and they're gone.
Do you suck up the energy if you vacuum? I'm just that's a total fucking joke. Yeah, so is that what they mean by cleanse people's energy out of the? Hey, it's like that thing I saw on Facebook though. That's why I don't dust and vacuum because they say from dust you were born and dust you will return. That's why I don't wipe it away. It could be somebody I love.
I don't care. Get the fuck out of my house. Bye. I didn't invite you.
So if y'all come over and see a layer of dust and cobwebs around my house, just mind your own damn business. It's my loved ones and I love having them around. So
So I have a question for you guys.
Oh God, I'm getting all kinds of hate in the comments about carpet being in guys. I love carpet in house. I'm just giving Shelly shit. Go ahead.
That's
why do you
go get them, people. You go get them.
I'm a dick from time to time. It's okay. Shelly, what was your question?
Well, hell, now I forgot it. It was a very smart question. I remember thinking, "Ooh, this is good," but I never got it out before I forgot it. Yeah, no, I don't remember.
See what I did? Talking about carpets.
I had a good question.
I blame you.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm getting blamed for everything. Carpets, and now Shelly losing her question. Oh,
wait a minute. Okay, so why do you think that whatever this energy is chooses to imitate one person or another? Because I tend to get mimicked a lot.
I think
I'm the loudest. I'm the most. I don't know.
It's like I said. I think it's a comfort thing. I think it's who can I present myself as, or what can I present myself as to get someone to drop their guard and be lured to wherever or whatever its goal is.
Saying I'm alluring.
I think in that
to your death, yeah.
I think in the situation where another investigator saw you go down the hallway, like you were saying, you were in a leadership role at that point. and whatever that is knows that you're in that leadership role, and it could easily fool someone by mimicking you and get that person to do whatever it wanted it to do.
It'd be my dumbass. It'd be like, why is Shelly walking into the empty elevator shaft? And maybe let's go check out what she's doing real quick.
But okay, but at the time, whenever you were getting my voice on a spirit box in a vault, and I wasn't in the building, there was no leadership role.
No, there's no leadership role, but you're my friend.
Doing our thing.
Saying you're my friend, and I'm familiar with you, and we all know why we're there doing that. So I think it was trying to either A, get me to drop my guard, or B, scare me because I know my friend's not in the building, but I'm still getting my friend's voice.
And the first thing I do is I laughed at you, which I do that all the time. I'm like, what's wrong with you? You know? So, yeah.
Yes, Shelly's mean to us. Yes. She laughs at us all the time.
I'm not mean.
Hits us, beats us up.
I don't believe in violence. I believe in psychological warfare, but not in violence.
But Blake, what do you think about that?
What part are we talking about again? Oh, the comfort thing.
Why do you think it picks one person or another? Because really, I probably get mimicked the most out of all of us.
But you're saying, why does it pick one person or another to mimic?
Why do they choose certain people? Why do you think that you would be something would choose to mimic you?
Okay, but my question is are we sticking with like doppelgangers, or are we sticking with mimics as a whole at this point? Because mimics as a whole.
In my case, it's both. People have seen me and they have heard me. So why do you think that why do you think it chooses certain people? Why would it choose you? Why would it choose me? Why would it choose Ryan?
Well, Helger, I don't know why it would choose me. I wouldn't choose me. No, I'm just kidding.
I would choose you. You're fascinating.
Oh, thank you. So she could lure me to my death. That's what it's about.
Come down here. I'm doing it right
said
now.
The spider. I would choose you, said the spider to the fly.
Come to me. See, Ryan picked up on it. Like,
I don't know.
Like was like, oh, thank you. I'm like, yes, come on.
No, I know you well enough. Shut up, Shelly. That's why I let you go first into the basement. Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm going to send the one shortest to hell who has the closest relationship down into the basement first. It's like going home for you. I don't think it really has to do with energy. I don't think it has to do with whatever you give off or anything like that. You as a person, I don't think it has to do with leadership role. I don't think it has to do with being Shelly. You're a very alpha female. I don't believe it has to do with being an alpha female. I think Ryan is on the right path when it comes to a comfort thing. When you are talking about things that are mimicking, that is to deceive. That is to trick. That is to make one believe it is something that it is not. So it needs to bring forth the most comforting form that it possibly can. Maybe it has actually nothing to do with you, Shelly, but it has to do with the people that are associated with you. Maybe it is those people who are seeing you, hearing you, all of that kind of stuff, because maybe you are the one in those moments that do give them the most comfort on investigations and stuff like that, knowing that you have our backs or something like that. I feel the same way about all three of you across the board. But for some reason, there's just a teeny tiny bit about me that feels a little bit more emboldened when Shelly is around.
Whenever I scream at it first.
No. Just when well, I mean, you're like
she gonna get it.
Yeah, you're like the older sister is like, yeah, wait till you meet my sister. My sister's gonna handle this for me.
She about to fuck you up.
Yeah, I become really emboldened with that. But no, I think that there's just that teensy little thing about you and I going off, and let's say we're breaking in pairs. You and I go off and do our own little thing that I feel a little bit more emboldened for some reason. I don't know why that is. And that might be because of you are very much an alpha female. But I think that's why you're mimicked to me with your voice and things like that, because maybe they are thinking she's probably the most comforting to him. I'm comfortable with all three of you. Yeah. So maybe that's what they think. So I think it has a lot more to do with the person that the mimic is happening to, not so much the person that is being mimicked.
That is a good theory, good thought. And again, I wasn't asking specifically about me. I'm just saying, why do you think that people that happens and they choose
because everybody wants to be you, Shelly.
Well, if you think about it,
damn,
somebody did say that they said, I need help, get down here. And they started down. Y'all ever heard me yell help?
Nope. I've heard you yell, "Listen, motherfucker!"
Yeah.
If you heard me yell help, would
Yeah.
you come? I'm like, fuck y'all, I need some help right now.
Oh, if
I
I,
mean,
heard
yeah,
you yell,
of
oh yeah,
course.
absolutely, without a doubt.
So what a great way to deceive.
That's why I'm saying I think it has everything to do
And
with
y'all
the
know I ain't gonna
person.
yell that. I'm just gonna go, Winnie,
No.
get the F out of here. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
yell help.
And that's why I think it has to do more with the person that the mimic is being done to than it has to
Yeah.
do with the person being mimicked.
Mhm.
And I think that correlates very closely into doppelgangers. Why are people seeing people's doppelgangers all the time? Because maybe that person that is the doppelganger is portraying is very comforting to the person seeing it.
Mhm.
Therefore, it can mislead and deceive it a lot easier.
So let me ask another question.
Okay.
I've never seen a doppelganger. And
Okay.
I never catch in the moment whenever I think that whenever there's a mimic, I always catch it after. I very rarely ever hear it because we've listened through back on some evidence review and y'all have said, oh, that was Ryan's voice. Or, oh, Shelley, that sounded like your voice. I never hear it in the moment. So why is it I don't catch it? I don't think I've ever heard a mimic. I don't think I've ever seen a doppelganger. Well, I know I've never seen a doppelganger. So why won't it show itself to me? Because I go, no, that's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, I wouldn't buy
because
it.
you yourself have said you're hard of hearing, so maybe
I'm deaf, but I
Well,
just fine.
There's that, but maybe sometimes in the moment you're so focused on the task at hand that you're not paying attention to what is, trying to mimic whatever.
It doesn't try to pull that shit with me.
Maybe because you yell at it.
I do yell at it a lot. You're right.
Maybe because nobody can give you comfort, Shelley. Let's talk about that first. No, I'm just kidding.
You go.
I am not easily comforted, and I just want to say right now that it's been a lifelong problem for me, and I appreciate you taking the time to acknowledge that.
We'll discuss this in your next therapy session. It's okay. Which will be a phone call after this broadcast is over right now.
Yes, okay.
Yes, over Fireball with Fireball.
I only get meaner whenever I drink.
That's true.
No, I don't.
True.
I get more stupid.
Tanya just yelled, "Girl power!" No, I think those are excellent questions. I really do, because I mean, it does seem like one person does tend to get mimicked a lot more than the others. And I'm not talking about just in our group. I'm talking about out of stories that I've read and stories that I've heard, other podcasts that I've listened to on this subject and things like that. It does always seem to be one person that is being mimicked over the other ones. But I just think it goes back to who feels the most comfortable with whatever they're seeing. And if for Ryan that's seeing Shelley or seeing me or seeing Brittany that brings him the most comfort, I think that's what they're going to show. And I think that's where the trickster element comes in, because is it a doppelganger that is just, a bad omen and all this kind of stuff? Or is it a demonic entity that's mimicking shit too? Because let's not pretend like that can't happen.
Yeah. Is it just trying to gain trust that it doesn't deserve or isn't worthy of?
I mean, or we haven't explored this avenue. What if it's just something that's like, watch this, I'm gonna fuck with him. I'm gonna sound like Shelley. Hey, man.
You know what? I
You know what I mean?
Buy that if it was. Well, I could see a parallel me going, watch this shit.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally see a parallel me going, oh yeah, look, okay, she gonna get all upset. Watch her. She gonna run down the hall after this thing. Watch, because I've done this before.
I mean, y'all have heard me do like different voices and stuff before, and like mimic people and stuff like that. If we, and we believe that most of what we're dealing with are people who just don't have a body anymore. What if someone is doing the same thing and like, let me see if I can fuck with these people. Let me see what I can do.
I think that comes down to a personal belief based on each individual. What do you believe that spirits are capable of? I think that's all that boils down to. Because for me, based off personal experiences while investigating, it's just my belief, until I'm proven wrong, that your everyday average spirits, people who just no longer have a body and are just here for whatever reason that may be, I don't think have the ability to mimic. That's just personal preference and personal belief for me. It's just based on experiences while investigating. That's it. I think the ability to mimic always comes with something that is more negative and or has a more sinister ulterior motive to go along with it. Because it's all about deception at that point.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you, but I mean,
do I think that there are some? Oh God, because I'm probably, when I get to the other side, y'all just be ready. If I go first, I'm gonna fuck with everybody. Just so y'all know, I'm gonna be leaving lights on. I'm gonna be opening your refrigerator door. I'm gonna take
Maybe, bro.
look. I'm gonna take just the charger cable from your charger, not the whole thing. I'm gonna leave the box in the wall, but I'm gonna take your charger cable.
That won't work with me. I have like 50. You've seen my little package. Can't carry all those.
I'm gonna take the remotes out of the TV or the
Oh, good.
remotes, the battery out of the remotes.
don't
You
want that.
bastard. You
I don't watch
sinister
TV,
son of a
so that
bitch.
won't
I
even bother
know,
me.
I
You're gonna have
know.
to be a lot more creative to get me to be bothered.
You're
I'm
gonna
gonna
hide
do just minor inconveniences is what it's gonna be.
you're gonna hide the Roku remote.
Yeah.
It's
That's
already
a
hard enough.
Roku remote.
It's already hard to find enough as it is because it's about this big, but he's just gonna hide it in random
Yep.
ass spots.
Yeah, show him.
Mm.
Final thoughts on doppelgangers or doppelganger.
I think that absolutely is, in my opinion, it's something that is absolutely negative. I don't see any good in seeing a double because I don't think that there's any good intention with it. This is just my opinion. And I think that usually if you are seeing things that is negative, I think it is to lure, to gain your trust and to mislead you, whether it's being mimicked or seeing something. I don't think there's anything positive that could come of that. So I think they're a bad deal and do not follow.
Do not follow.
Do not follow.
I do not 10 out of 10 don't recommend.
I say for the most part, I agree with Shelley, but I do think in certain situations, I think it's all about the situation that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, what she said.
I was gonna say I'm gonna what she said. That's what she said. No, really, it was. Rewind the tape like 30 seconds. No, I would be inclined to agree. We got to get off these topics where we all three agree at the end. This is no fun. They want to see a brawl. They want to. They want to see. They want to see us fight and throw food at each other.
That's
and
why y'all always need to make me go last because you know I enjoy disagreeing with you. Yes.
And mud wrestle. No, I'm just
Well, I mean, we've we've explored different avenues and debated a little bit on this. We haven't gone for each other's jugular, but we're all good.
I know they're just wanting one that they want us to go for the jugular.
Trust me, y'all. There are some coming up that we have already had some conversations on the phone where we have been in arguments. Not arguments. We have debated.
Listen,
arguments. Arguments mean that people walk away with hurt feelings. We debate, which is no. Listen to my side. I'm going to let you see my side.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm like, listen. We got Ferocious Female Month coming up, the month of May.
Oh,
y'all just be ready for the debates on that because it'll be our second annual Ferocious Female Month, and we have got freaking doozies for you. So y'all just hold out for May. Well, I think
all the other ones are going to be great up till.
Oh no, they're going to be. Oh, we got some more special guests.
Female months. Oh yeah.
We got more special guests coming your way next month. We got more interesting topics coming your way next month. And Gabby is barking up a storm. Speaking of which, the story was about her tonight. That's her sign off.
She said, I heard you talking about me.
She said, I'm going to get in on this podcast. Well, first and foremost, just a couple of announcements and shout outs that we've got to give. As always. So if you have been watching the podcast and paying attention for the last couple of weeks, we've had some wonderful guests on. One of those being Nick Sarlo from Shadow Hunters, Paranormal Investigations and Events. He has got a Paracon coming up that is going to be next month, April the 22nd. It is going to take place in Broadhead, Wisconsin. You'll remember if you watched it. If not, I'm going to tell you anyways. They're planning an entire day packed full of freaking fun. They're going to have games, Survive Michael Myers. It's plus you get an investigation at the end that is a separate ticket purchase for the Broadhead Manor. If you watched last week's, we had Broadhead Manor that we did with Bill Walter. He was on. That's where they're going to be hosting this Paracon. It is $20 to get in without a food donation or $10 to get in with a food donation. All donations are going to go benefit, I believe, 2 food pantries.
2 different food banks,
yes. On those. So you're not going to find a Paracon that's going to be that cheap. Absolutely fantastic idea. They have a slew of things that they're going to do.
It's going to be a blast. Y'all need to go if you can.
Yeah, if you can make it. And then also on May 12th and the 13th, we are going to be in Ballinger, Texas at the West Tex Paracon, where we are going to be speaking alongside some great other speakers. John Zaffis is going to be there. The Ghost Lab Brothers, Natalie Jones is going to be there. Just go take a look at it. We have recently posted up the websites where you can find all of their information. We are going to be speaking at it, so that's why you need to come, because we are going to be showcasing our best of the best evidence captured at the old park, which you will get to investigate both nights along with the old Runnels County Jail as well. And then we're not done. July 14th through the 16th, you can then catch us in Kansas City, Missouri, where we are going to be speaking at Metacon, where they are going to have yet even more speakers, as well as 40 plus vendors and over 30,000 square feet of shopping, fun, and as they put it, healing. That's a lot of damn places, guys.
That is. We're going to be doing a lot of traveling. And if you want to, you can go check out on scarenetwork.tv our latest documentary that dropped with Billy Lewis and Eric Connor called Old Park. If you want to go see what all the fuss is about, wow, go and watch that.
Yes.
Highly recommend it.
Yep. We have also got tickets for another, speaking of which, 2-night event at Old Park, 2-night investigation. We are going to open up the jail for this one. So if you are coming with us in April, you're going to need to come back in October because you're going to get 2 locations for the exact same price. An entire weekend long, you get like 42 hours inside both of these locations. It's going to be fantastic. Those tickets already are on sale. You can find those at our Eventbrite page. And then we are about to put tickets on sale again for our next Gregg County Historical Museum investigation that's taking place in June. So be sure to watch out for that. We will also make sure we post up links and all of that good junk and stuff. We'll reshare the post that we did for the Paracons as well as our tickets where you can go find that. Whew, I think that does it for the announcements. Now, make sure that you're following us across all social media channels. Stay up to date on all the exclusive content that we have coming this year. We utilize different channels for different content. So if you're only on one channel, you're only getting a fraction of the content that is available. Find the Linktree link in the About Me or the bio sections and in the description of the episodes. Be taken directly where you want to go, including our Patreon page and our public events page. With our Patreon, if you join it, it's $5 a month, and you are getting just under 100 videos and hours upon hours of very fun, stupid, idiotic entertainment, where we talk about everything from the paranormal to the sex dream that Shelly had last night.
Somebody on this screen was in it with me.
We won't say who.
You'll have to find out.
Yep. And as always, any questions, comments, or stories you'd like to share with us, those can be submitted to the evppod@gmail.com. That is THEEVPPOD@gmail.com.
Like, share, and subscribe. Please go to the YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button too.
Absolutely, yes. Because that's where our new investigation series is going to be coming exclusively to the EVP files. Go check out the trailer on our Facebook. With that, guys, thank y'all for watching another weekly episode of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. For myself, I am Blake Smith, and my partners in the paranormal, Miss Shelly Pruitt, Mr. Ryan Roberts, and as always, we have Brittany in the green room, pressing all the buttons, making us look fantastic, because without her, we would need a lot of help.
We still need a lot of help.
We still need a lot of help with her. But anyways, with that, guys, y'all have a wonderful night, and as always, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.